Have you ever noticed how easy it is to trust everyone else's opinion but struggle to trust your own? Maybe you've asked your family what they think. Maybe you've texted a friend before making a decision. Maybe you've replayed the same situation over and over in your mind, hoping someone else could tell you what the right answer was. And maybe somewhere along the way, you got so used to listening to everyone else that your own voice started getting quieter. Not because it disappeared, just because life got loud. Hey there, welcome to Momma Drama and Trauma. I'm Jenny, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. Have a seat beside me on the porch swing for a while, and let's talk about something I think so many of us experience without even realizing it. Maybe you've spent years looking outside yourself for reassurance. Maybe you've questioned your instincts, second-guessed your decisions, or waited for someone else to tell you it was okay before taking the next step. If you have, I want you to know you're not alone. This week marks a really special milestone for me because it's the 1-year anniversary of Momma Drama and Trauma. As I started reflecting on this past year, I realized something I never expected. This episode isn't really about finding your voice. It's about realizing it was never truly gone. It was simply waiting for you to start listening again. So today, I want to share a few stories with you, not because I have all the answers, but because sometimes hearing someone else's story helps us hear our own a little more clearly. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's spend a little time together on the porch swing. The voice I almost forgot. I still laugh when I walk into my bedroom some days. The closet I used to share is now completely full. The 2 dressers we once shared are full too. There's even a chair beside my bed that you can't sit in anymore because it's covered with clothes. Every now and then, I'll stand there looking at it all and just shake my head. How in the world did I end up with this many clothes? It's funny how something as ordinary as an overflowing closet can bring back a memory you hadn't thought about in years. Looking back now, it's amazing how quickly life can change. About 2 weeks before my life changed forever, we were getting ready to leave for a family vacation to Colorado. I remember standing in my laundry room with a towel spread across the counter. I had my iron heating up beside me, and laid out in front of me were 3 or 4 pairs of my favorite Old Navy yoga pants. I'd worn those yoga pants for years. They'd been washed so many times the fabric had started wearing thin. Instead of buying new ones, I'd ordered iron-on patches. One by one, I carefully pressed those patches onto each pair, hoping I could get a little more life out of them. It never crossed my mind that maybe I should just buy a new pair. I wasn't upset about it. I wasn't thinking I was going without. It was just what I did. The funny thing was, after I ironed those patches on, those yoga pants weren't even comfortable anymore. Every time I wore them, I could feel the patches. They weren't the same, but they were still wearable, so I kept wearing them. Then life happened, and just like that, everything changed. After my life changed, one of the very first things I did was order a few new pairs of yoga pants from Amazon. Not because I wanted anything fancy, not because I was trying to reinvent myself. I just wanted a pair of yoga pants that didn't need patches anymore. When they arrived, I remember putting them on and thinking, these are actually comfortable. It seems like such a little thing now. After that, I found myself wandering through a couple of stores while they were having their end of summer sales. I still looked at every price tag because that's just who I am. If something was more than I wanted to spend, I put it back. But every now and then I'd find a shirt I really liked or a pair of jeans that fit just right, and I'd put them in my cart. What surprised me wasn't buying the clothes. It was what I wasn't thinking. I wasn't wondering how I was going to explain buying them. I wasn't rehearsing a conversation in my head. I wasn't preparing myself for someone to question whether I really needed them. I just bought them. I remember walking out of those stores carrying those bags, feeling excited because I finally had clothes that made me feel good when I put them on. And if I'm being honest, I probably got a little carried away. I went back more than once, not because I suddenly needed a whole new wardrobe. I think I just liked how it felt to choose something simply because I liked it. Now, every time I open that overflowing closet or look at that chair that's disappeared under another pile of clothes, I can't help but smile. For the longest time, I thought the story was about the clothes, but somewhere along the way, I realized it never was. The clothes were just the first place I noticed something changing inside me. Back then, buying a new pair of yoga pants didn't feel like a defining moment. It just felt like buying a new pair of yoga pants. Looking back now, I can see it differently. Sometimes the moments that quietly change us don't look important while we're living them. Sometimes it takes years before we realize they were the first time we started listening to our own voice again. The voice that changed me. The other afternoon, I was sitting on my bed with my laptop trying to figure out what August was going to look like. My planner was open beside me, there were sticky notes everywhere, and I had so many tabs open on my computer, I couldn't even tell you what half of them were anymore. I remember looking at the calendar and thinking, it's August. Then it hit me. Almost 3 years since my life completely changed. Almost 1 year since I released my very first podcast. I opened YouTube and scrolled all the way back to episode 1, August 5th. I just sat there smiling, not because millions of people had listened, not because I'd become some incredible podcaster. I smiled because I'd kept showing up for a whole year. As I looked at that first episode, I realized I'd been measuring the wrong thing. I thought the accomplishment was creating 53 podcast episodes. It wasn't. The accomplishment was becoming the woman who created them. Every week I sat down to tell another story. I thought I was talking to someone else. Looking back, I think I was talking to myself. Every episode asked me to slow down, to tell the truth, to own my part, to let go of the parts that were never mine to carry. Little by little, I stopped trying to convince people to understand my story. I just started telling it honestly. And somewhere along the way, something unexpected happened. I began trusting my own voice. When I first started this podcast, I hoped someone out there would hear my story and feel a little less alone. Now, a year later, I realized the person who needed to hear my voice the most was me. I didn't need permission anymore. I can still picture myself sitting in my office, my computer open in front of me, finishing another podcast episode. By then, recording had started to feel a little more familiar. I knew how I wanted the episode to sound. I'd record it, listen back, make a few edits, add the music, and get everything ready to publish. Those first few episodes had been different. I'd finish recording, export the audio, and send it to my sister before anyone else ever heard it. She'd listen and give me her thoughts. Sometimes she'd catch little things I'd missed. I still remember one time she told me the pause between a segment and the title was a little too long. She wasn't criticizing me. She was helping me. Those little bits of feedback gave me confidence while I was still trying to figure everything out. Looking back, I'm really grateful for those conversations because sometimes we all need someone who believes in us before we completely believe in ourselves. But somewhere around episode 5, something changed. Not in a dramatic way. There wasn't some big moment where I decided I didn't need anyone's opinion anymore. I simply finished the episode. I added the music, listened through it one more time, clicked publish, and went on with my day. It wasn't until later that I realized I hadn't sent it to my sister first. I hadn't asked what she thought. I hadn't waited for reassurance. I had just trusted myself enough to release it. The funny thing is, I didn't even realize it was happening. I only noticed it when I looked back. I think that's how a lot of growth happens. We don't always recognize it while we're living it. Sometimes we only see it after we've become someone different. Sometimes it quietly slips into your life and you don't even recognize it until you look back. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't just about a podcast. For years, I got into the habit of checking with everyone else before I made a decision. I'd ask what they thought. I'd wonder if they liked my idea. I'd wait to hear if they thought it sounded okay before I moved forward. There isn't anything wrong with asking for advice. In fact, I still value the opinions of the people I love, especially the people who love me enough to be honest with me. But somewhere along the way, I realized something had shifted. I wasn't looking for permission anymore. I was looking for perspective. Those are two very different things. Permission says I can't move forward until someone tells me it's okay. Perspective says I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I already know what feels right to me. That realization didn't just change the way I created my podcast. It changed the way I lived. As I spent this past year telling my story out loud, I started seeing parts of my life more clearly. I started noticing where I needed stronger boundaries. I started recognizing when I was giving other people's opinions more weight than my own. Little by little, I stopped asking everyone else to tell me what I should do and started asking myself instead. That didn't mean I suddenly had all the answers. It didn't mean I never questioned myself. It simply meant I finally trusted myself enough to listen to my own voice first. Looking back now, I don't think episode 5 was important because I stopped sending it to my sister. I think it was important because it was the first time I quietly gave myself permission to trust my own judgment. No announcement, no celebration, just one more episode, one more click of the publish button, one more small decision that at the time didn't seem like it mattered very much. But now I know better. Sometimes the biggest changes in our lives don't happen because we make one bold decision. Sometimes they happen because one ordinary day we stop waiting for permission and simply trust ourselves enough to begin. Leave the light on. For the past several months, it seems like every free minute I've had has been spent sitting in my bedroom with my laptop open, surrounded by notebooks, half-finished ideas, and way too many tabs open on my computer. I'd finish one thing and immediately think of something else I wanted to add. I'd work on the workbook for Coming Home to Yourself, then I'd move over to recording the audio. While I was recording the audio, another idea would pop into my head, so I'd stop and make a note before I forgot it. Then I'd go back to Canva and make changes to a graphic because I thought of a better way to say something. Some days it felt like I was taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but somehow, little by little, it all started coming together. The day I finally finished Coming Home to Yourself, I remember leaning back in my chair and thinking, well, now what? I had poured my heart into creating something that I truly believed could help someone. Now I had to figure out how to put it into the world. That's when I started thinking about platforms and memberships and websites. I remember talking through different ideas, wondering if Patreon made sense or if there was a better way. After a lot of brainstorming, I finally realized that what I was trying to build wasn't just a place to sell a workbook. I was trying to build a porch, not a real porch with a swing hanging from it, but a place where someone could show up carrying the weight of their own story and not feel like they had to carry it alone anymore. That changed everything. Suddenly, this wasn't about workbooks or audio recordings or printables. It wasn't even about creating a membership. It was about creating a place where someone could finally exhale. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I wasn't really thinking about how many people would join. I kept thinking about the person who might need it. The woman sitting at her kitchen table after everyone else has gone to bed, wondering, how did I get here? The person sitting in their car before walking into work because they need just 5 more minutes to pull themselves together. The one who's lying awake at 2 o'clock in the morning wondering if anyone else has ever felt this lost. And more than anything, I want them to know they're not alone, that someone else has asked those same questions, carried those same doubts, and understands what they're feeling. And if they choose to sit beside me on the porch swing for a while, I hope they'll find a community of people who understand that healing isn't something we rush. It's something we walk through together, one honest conversation at a time. If I'm being completely honest, though, there's still a part of me that's scared. Not because someone might say no, not because everyone won't like it. I'm scared that someone who really needs it might never find it. That thought has crossed my mind more than once. What if I've poured my heart into building something that could help someone, but they never even know it exists? Then I remind myself of something this past year has been teaching me. My job isn't to make sure everyone finds the porch. My job is to build it with as much honesty and love as I know how. Leave the light on and trust that the people who need it will find their way there. That's the part that requires faith. Not faith that thousands of people will join, not faith that everything will go exactly the way I've imagined, but faith that if even one person sits down on that porch swing and finally feels seen, if one person realizes they're not carrying their story alone, if one person begins trusting their own voice again, then every late night, every rewritten page, every recording, every doubt, and every hour I spent building this little porch will have been worth it. Whether one person joins the porch swing or 100 people do, I'm proud that I finally trusted myself enough to build it. Because when I first started this journey, I thought I was trying to create a place for other people to come. Looking back now, I realize I was also creating a place that reminded me of the kind of woman I want to keep becoming. A woman who leaves the porch light on, makes room for another chair, and isn't afraid to say, "Come on up, have a seat, you're always welcome here." Porch Swing Reflection. As we've been sitting here together today, I can't help but wonder which part of these stories stayed with you. Was it the patched yoga pants, the podcast, learning to set boundaries, or was it something deeper? It may have simply been that quiet feeling of thinking, when did I stop trusting myself? I guess life has a way of doing that. Little by little, we start looking outside ourselves for answers. We ask other people what they think because we're afraid of making the wrong decision. We second guess ourselves. We replay conversations in our minds. We wonder if we're doing enough, being enough, or making the right choices. Before we know it, someone else's voice becomes louder than our own. The hard part is that it usually doesn't happen all at once. It's so gradual that we hardly notice it. One day we ask for someone's opinion because we genuinely value it. Then another day we ask because we're unsure of ourselves. Before long, we find ourselves waiting for someone else to tell us it's okay before we take the next step. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. There may be a decision you've been carrying around for a while now. You've talked it through with family. You've asked your friends what they think. You've gone looking for answers, hoping someone else could tell you what the right choice was. And after all of that, you still don't know what to do. If that's where you are, I'd just like to leave you with this thought. What if the voice you've been waiting to hear is your own? Not because you'll always get it right, not because you'll never make another mistake, but because you've lived your life. You've walked through your experiences. You've survived things no one else knows the full story of. You've learned lessons that belong only to you. Somewhere inside all of that is a wisdom that's uniquely yours. Trusting yourself doesn't mean having all the answers. It means believing that whatever comes next, you'll find a way through it. It means making the next decision without waiting for someone else's permission. It means telling the truth about something you've been carrying for a long time. It means setting boundaries that protect your peace, even when they're uncomfortable. Sometimes it means taking the first step towards something that's been on your heart for months, even though you have no idea how it's going to turn out. None of those things require certainty. They simply ask you to believe that your own voice is worth listening to. You don't have to do it perfectly. You don't have to have every detail figured out. You just have to be willing to listen when that quiet little voice inside you whispers, "This feels right." So before we leave the porch swing today, I'd love for you to carry one question with you this week. When was the last time you trusted yourself before asking someone else what they thought? Don't rush to answer it. Just let it stay with you for a while. Sometimes the answers we're searching for don't come because we think harder. Sometimes they come because for the first time in a long time, we get quiet enough to hear the voice that's been with us all along. Before we head out today, I wanted to share something that's been on my heart for a long time. Over the past year, so many of you have reached out to tell me pieces of your own story. You've shared your heartbreak, your healing, your questions, and your victories with me. Every message has reminded me that none of us were ever meant to carry life's hardest moments alone. That's really why I created the Porch Swing. It's a place to slow down, take a deep breath, and continue the conversations we start here each week. It's where we can spend a little more time together through deeper reflections, guided resources, exclusive audio conversations, and a community of people who understand that healing isn't about having all the answers. It's about taking the next step together. That's what the Porch Swing is. It's a membership, yes, but more than that, it's an invitation. An invitation to pull up a chair, stay a while, and remember that you don't have to walk this journey alone. If you've ever wished these podcast conversations could last just a little longer, I'd love to invite you to pull up a chair and join me on the Porch Swing. You'll find the link in the show notes, and I would truly love to have you there. And if today's episode made you think of someone who's been learning to trust themselves again, would you do me a favor? Share this episode with them. Sometimes one conversation, one story, or one reminder that they're not alone can make all the difference. Thank you for spending part of your day with me today. Whether this is your very first episode or you've been sitting beside me on this porch swing for the past year, I'm so grateful you're here. As always, you are strong, you are worthy, and your story matters. Until next time, take care of you.